Good morning, everybody. It's Taya here at Quilting Delights with Chris behind the camera, and we are team teaching, team filming this project today. This is the 2024-2025 project of the month, and we are going to talk about our Prairie Point star blocks and embroidery. This is an absolutely beautiful quilt, and we are excited that we have it all put together and ready for you. We're going to focus today mostly on piecing. The embroidery is fairly simple, but the piecing, we want to give you some skills that help you sew diamonds on the bias, etc. So let's start out talking about preparation and preparing your fabrics first. We're going to give you these pieces already Mary Ellen's best pressed, starched, and cut. Now you'll notice each one of these has a little notch around the edge. There you go, Chris. Has a notch on the edges, and that's so you line it up correctly with the one ahead of it that you're going to be sewing to. So my suggestion is that you take some paper towels and you'll get 5 baggies. We're going to make 5 of these stars, and you're going to get 5 baggies that have enough fabric star points to make the entire star. So you'll get a baggie that has a million little pieces like this, and you're going to start out by making this block. Now, when you sew these together, it's important that you use a 1/4 inch seam, just scant 1/4 inch seam. And yes, it is correct that these have a notch in them. Every one of them is going to have a notch, and that allows you to match them up correctly with the next one. Now, when you're done, it's going to look like this. On this particular part of the block, we are going to press the seams opposite directions, and then we're going to press them all to one side. So you want to make sure that you're really consistent about pressing them all the same direction. In other words, this piece right here is at the top. You want to make sure that all of the star points go like this. This is called a star point unit. Now, what we've done to make the next step easier is we have marked 1/4 inch on all 4 corners. All 4 corners get marked a 1/4 inch so that you know where to stop and start, because this is a Y-seam project. I'm going to switch sides with you here. So in order to do Y-seams, what we have to do is we have to stop and start a 1/4 inch in. So you're going to make 40 of these units. And I know it seems like a lot, but I'm telling you, it goes together really fast. So you don't fuss over it too much. Just sew and be happy. And then mark these with the way we have for your Y seams. Now, you're going to split these into 2 piles. You're going to put 20 of them in one pile and 20 of them in another pile. And the reason we're going to do that is because the next thing we have to do is put them together and then add our setting triangles and our corner blocks. We're going to do the corner blocks first. So what I mean by that is you're going to have yardage of more background pieces, and you want to Mary Ellen's best press all of the fabrics that are in yardage, because we have not Mary Ellen best pressed those. We have only done the pieces that we're giving you. So you're going to Mary Ellen's best press, and then on the wrong side of the fabric, you're going to put a little dot at the 1/4 inch, because that's going to help us when we put this together. Okay? Same thing with the triangles. Once you get those cut, you're going to put a little mark in the corner and the wrong side of the fabric, and you'll see why that's helpful here in just a second. Okay, so now the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to sew for all 40 of them. You're going to take your first set of 20 and you're going to sew them together to make 10 units that look like this. 10 units that look like this. And on this particular part of it, we are going to start and stop a 1/4 inch in and back tack. Now, all of this is written in your instructions that we will email you, so you'll have, or that will come with your kit, so you'll have all of this. But we're going to start and stop a 1/4 inch in from the edge on both sides, back tack, and then when you open this, you're going to press it open. It's very seldom that we press seams open in quilting. Maybe if you're a modern quilter, but generally speaking, traditional quilters don't press seams open, but when you make Y seams, you have to do that. So you'll see here how it splits, and we've only sewn to the 1/4 inch. Now we're going to add our square, and one of the things I tell you is pin, pin, pin. You got to pin really, really well. So you can see now we have put the wrong side of the white, the right side of the white to the right side of our star point. And if you fold it in half like this and crease it, it just gives you a better visual for where it's supposed to line up. So we've creased this fabric. Maybe I should move this out of the way so you can see it. We've creased this fabric in half, and now you can see that it's going to lay really nice. Now, the trick to sewing these, one thing I wanted to say about these setting blocks and setting triangles, most patterns tell you to cut them a particular size, and then you just have to cross your fingers, have your tongue in the right position, and hope and pray that there's enough fabric to go to the outside. I have always been the kind of quilter that makes my squares bigger, and my setting triangles bigger, because it's easier to trim them down than it is to try and stretch it. So both our squares and our setting triangles are bigger than the pattern that we originally did, or what the pattern originally told us to do. So we're going to pin all the way across, pin all the way across. The reason I mention that is because you want to notice that this goes way off the edge on both corners. And we're going to start by sewing a 1/4 inch down to the center, and where this mark is that we put on here, we're going to stop right before it and back tack. So in other words, we don't want our seams to cross over. We want our seams to just hit, maybe I'd rather be 1 stitch shy than 1 stitch over, and you'll see what that means. So you're going to back that up, go all the way down to here, and then back tack a little bit. Now take it out of your machine, put it back in your machine, and now we're going to sew from the center out with a 1/4 inch seam. Same thing, we're going to start just 1 stitch shy of that where it turns, and we're going to back tack and then go all the way down. Now, for those of you with a Bernina, there is a stitch number 1324 that will do 4 itty bitty tiny stitches and then take off. That and it will do that at the end too if you use your reverse button. So that keeps it from bulking up with back tacking. But just remember, you're going to go from one side all the way in and back tack, take it out of your machine, start in the center on the other side and go to the outside. You're going to make 10 of these. Is that right? 20 of these. 20, 10. Yes, you're going to make enough of these for all the corners. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to make 20 of these.
Yeah.
You're going to make 20 of these. And you're going to make 20 units like this. And then we're going to set those aside. Once you've done that, we are now going to, your pattern will tell you how many of these you need to make. It's still on my computer, so I don't have it in front of me. Now you're going to take these two, you're going to take these units, and you're going to sew them together just like we sewed the first 2 together, and you're going to stop at a 1/4 inch on either end and back tack on both sides. So you're going to have a bunch of these with the squares on either side, and now we're going to add the triangle to the middle. Can you all see that? We're going to add the triangle to the middle. And it is exactly the same as the squares. We're going to pin. I'm going to lay this out. You can see our little corner mark here, so you want to make sure that that's off the fabric when you pin this. You're going to sew a 1/4 inch down and back tack, and then you're going to sew a 1/4 inch up and back tack. Now, I want to talk about this for just a second, because my general rule of thumb is on bias edges, you have the bias edges on the bottom, not the top. But in this case, we need to make sure that the seams are on the bottom. And so we're going to sew with the bias edges on the top in this situation. So we're going to sew down, back tack, take it out of our machine, put it back into our machine, and then sew the other edge. And you can see why pinning a lot is so important. Let me find one more pin here that's not mangled. it's really important to pin because we don't want those bias edges to stretch and we don't want them to come off the mark there. Once you've done that, it's gonna lay out really, really super flat. It's awesome. Chris did such a good job getting this all sized and put together for us. And you're gonna make 5 of these. You're gonna make 5 of these. So all of the cutting instructions and the piecing instructions are set up for you to make 5 of these successfully. Now here's why you want a larger triangle, setting triangle, and a larger square. Everybody sews differently. I tend to sew a scant 1/4 inch seam, but my blocks still seem to turn out a little bit bigger. This is supposed to square up to 14.5. Well, these points are a little bit past where we would have a good 1/4 inch seam allowance. So in talking about it, Chris and I said, let's make it 15 inches, and that way the star points kind of float. The one thing you don't want to do on a quilt that is this complicated is cut off your star points. That makes it look really bad. So we're going to square these up to 15 inches, which means you're going to have a little bit of float on the outside edges of your star points. Okay, so 15 inches, 5 of these, make them beautiful. On this particular block, it is so important to have the back of your block look as good as the front. So we're going to have pictures of this in our instructions, but I want you to look at how nice this looks when everything is pressed and tidy. It really makes a difference on how it looks on the front.
A couple of tips that I'm going to give you that Tia didn't mention is that when you're sewing these units together, if your 1/4 inch is correct, your edges will line up straight, which they need to. Don't trim them to make them straight, otherwise you'll have problems in the ends.
Same thing when you sew them together.
And the same thing when you sew them together here.
This is probably the only block ever that I don't square up when I'm done on these star points because just like Chris said, these are cut with the AccuQuilt cutter and designed so that when you sew them together, you can see we have a perfectly straight line on all 4 edges. I don't care about the notch. In fact, the little notch is supposed to be there. So do not trim these after you have put them together or this won't work. Okay, just focus on getting these edges straight, getting these edges straight and even, these edges straight and even. And because we have Mary Ellen Best Press starched these ahead of time, there's not going to be a lot of moving around or give. They're going to be really solid pieces of fabric for you to work with. Okay, let's talk about our machine embroidery and our little elephant family. We're so excited about this. So the center block, we have you start with a 10.5 inch square, and you need to put shape flex on the back. Now, when we say shape flex, we're just talking about a woven fusible that fuses to the back of whatever fabric you're going to embroider on. When you attach this to the back, you want to spray it with Mary Ellen's Best Press and make sure that it pre-shrinks before you put it on the pre-shrunk fabric that you're embroidering on. So you're going to put this on the back of the square, and then we're going to we're going to stitch out the big elephant first. It'll put down a placement line, you'll peel the paper, don't forget to peel the paper off the back, iron it down, and we love the small Dritz iron to do that with because we can get inside of our hoop. And then it's going to stitch the heart. Now the heart we don't have a cutout for. We don't have an AccuQuilt cutout, and it's not bad practice for you to figure out how to do this. So what you're going to do with the heart is you're going to stitch the heart outline. Then you're going to take your fabric with the heat and bond light on the back of it, put it in your hoop, and you're going to stitch it out again with no thread. So in other words, take the thread out of your machine, turn your upper thread sensor off, and stitch it out so that it perforates the paper and the design. So you'll take this off, you'll trim it into a heart, and then you're ready to sew it down. Now the reason it does the mama elephant and then the heart is because the heart is a little balloon and the line has to go underneath the baby's trunk. So once you're done with that, we're going to stitch the baby down. Now, the ears and the eye are both stitched. They are not fabric. So you're just going to have fabric for the 2 elephants and the balloon. All right. Once you're done with that, remember we sized this up to 15, and so we have to get this to 15. The original instructions said 14 and a half, so we're going to help you with how to make that a little bit bigger. Was this 10? Was this going to be 10?
Finished at 10.
Finished 10 and a half. Okay, so when you square up this background square with the elephants on it, my suggestion is that you do not cut it before you mark it. In other words, you need to mark that 10 and a half inches, but we're going to actually do 10 and a half inches plus 2 threads all the way around extra. Not a full 1/8 of an inch, just 2 threads all the way around extra. So that's why I want you to mark this. We're going to mark it 10 and a half inches plus 2 threads on all 4 sides. Same thing when you go to do your half square triangles. The half square triangles are designed to be trimmed to 2 and a half and then sewn together. And if you think about it, the math says it'll be 14 and a half inches then. But the problem is we need it to be 15. So we're going to use a scant, when we square up our half square triangles, we're going to square them up to 2 and a half inches plus 1 thread all the way around so that they're just a little tiny bit bigger. And we're going to sew those together. And this needs to stretch out, not stretch, but lay flat at 15 inches. Same thing with the sides. It's going to be, I think it's 10 and a half plus 2 threads. So we're gonna add a little bit of value to these in terms of how we square them up, and this one needs to be 15 inches as well. You're gonna make 4 of these, and then when it goes together, they're gonna just go together beautifully. We're gonna add a 2.5 inch border all the way around. Are we doing a peeper on this one? No, we're doing a peeper on the other one. Next month, we're going to show you how to do peeper binders. And then you're just going to bind it with the rest of the gray fabric that you've got. This is a very fun, very easy project, but you are going to learn some new skills and some new ideas on how to put together bias edges, diamonds, why we need to do Mary Ellen's best press on everything, and I think you're going to just absolutely love this. What we need you to do is call us and let us know whether you want a kit or not. We've got some of you who have ordered kits, but we are only doing the cuts on this one time. It is very labor intensive for us to get all of the cuts for these done. So if you want a kit, they're $59.99. We actually, in looking back at it, these are way underpriced for what we should have done, and we are happy to pass that on to you. But if you want a kit, we're doing, this is the pink, and then there's a blue version if you want to do a boy one. And just let us know. You do need to purchase your back extra that I think is $14.25. $14.25. You're going to need a yard of the Shape Flex that you need to purchase in addition, and we have already put the Heat and Bond fusible on the back of all of the applique pieces. So don't let this go by you. This is a wonderful heirloom quilt, baby quilt that you want in your collection. And I also want to share that if you just want to do something super fast and super easy, we have our new collection of Playtime flannels in. And so I just threw together this quilt that uses the charm packs. You could also do it with the, I forgot what these are called, jelly rolls. Yep, you could do a jelly roll quilt. We also have the 10-inch squares. So these are all available now. But this, if you wanted to make this quilt, you could use this embroidery from this month's project. This is just one little tiny 10-inch charm square pack. I can't ever get that out right. A fat quarter for the center, and then we'll have some extra cutouts of the elephants available. But this goes really fast. So if you've got somebody who's having a baby and you're going, oh no, I have to make something quick and easy. My next door neighbor just had a new grandbaby, and she said, oh, could you make me a little girl quilt? I'll get right on that. But this one took me less than 2 evenings to do, and I'm going to do the embroidery after it's all put together. So that's an idea for you, too. If you're interested in that, just give us a call. Phone number here is 503-658-1600. We're going to cut these on Tuesday. And they'll be available for you to pick up by Thursday next week. Don't forget, we are closed on Monday for Labor Day, And because of the heat tomorrow, we will be closing early. We'll be closing at 2. So if you've got any questions, anything we can help you with, just let us know. And in September, we're back in the classroom sewing. Thanks, you guys. We will talk to you soon, and let us know what we can do to help you.